All right, bad news first. Cat Abughazaleh lost, unfortunately. I don't think it's a crazy big deal. I mean, I would have preferred it if she had won, because obviously you've got two levels to the discourse. On one hand, it would have been nice if she had won. On the other hand, people that turn into a meta conversation about whether or not, like, the left Tea Party is real. She's very, very young. She's a woman. These things run against her in terms of perceived viability as a political candidate. Running for a house is not at all a low office. And in addition to that, she did pretty well. I mean, she basically pulled a campaign out of her hat. I think she's nice.
Hey everyone, I don't know if you heard, but we didn't win, and it really fucking sucks. We came really close, and it sucks, but it's something that no one in power even expected would be possible at all. I need to stress to every single person in this room that this does not mean that the last year has been for nothing.
I do hope she runs again. She has a great temperament for this. You know what I mean? I feel like she's very close to being the ideal, the platonic ideal of the, like, young, fresh-faced candidate. I mean, obviously you get older every year, right? But I feel like she nails that really well. There's a lot of people who are young, but they're still kind of cynical, or they're young, but they're like, I don't know, AIPAC ops or whatever. I think she lands in that archetype really well. I think that she could still, I mean, she's like, what is she, like 20 or something? She's like 26. She could be the young, fresh-faced candidate for another 30 years when compared to the average age in Congress. It's crazy how old everyone is, except for her.
Of thousands of people powered this campaign, knocking doors, making calls, donating what they could. We fed and clothed thousands of people across the 9th District.
Yeah, she turned her campaign office into like a mutual aid hub. She used some campaign funds to, in addition to promoting herself, of course, helping out homeless people, distributing like food and stuff. Real nice, real nice stuff. Got a good handle on like self-promotion, advocacy, just all and around a good package. I really do hope she runs again in the future. I think she could win next time, or do better. Keep in mind that if she ran again, lost, and then ran a third time and then won, she would be in at 30. So again, all I'm saying is that in the long arc of a lifetime, we've got room here.
We forced our opponents
if she wants
to the left and to be more aggressive against this administration. We did all of this together from the ground up, with everything against us. We had millions in AIPAC spending, dark money smear campaigns, institutional power, tipping the scales, and we made them use their entire arsenal, shit we've never even seen before, just to beat us.
That's true. AIPAC spent, like, Jesus, across all of Illinois, spent over $10 million. AIPAC, and of course, they're like dark money, generic named subsidiary PACs, and the individual donors that work with AIPAC, like the AIPAC affiliated, the AIPAC family. They spent a lot, and they especially spent it here.
And that's just for now. We showed that politics can be more than backroom deals and reliance on the ultra-rich.
You want a pie chart? Yes, here we go. Total PAC spending in all of Illinois. I love my Citizens United decision. So good. AIPAC and aligned groups, 20 million. Crypto, 14.1. AI, 2.5. All others, 20.4. Super nice. Super cool. I love that. Just crypto. Just crypto. Just crypto. Who's the winner anyway? Biss, unfortunately, a Zionist shill. But, you get what you can. At least he wasn't the worst Zionist shill in the race.
It can be a community. It can be a team sport. We were able to change the conversation in this district and nationwide. We have done so much that has never been seen before in American politics. And we have set a new standard from what people should expect from those trying to represent them. I am so incredibly proud of what we built together, and deeply grateful to every single person who believed in this campaign, especially my staff. I'm not going to go further than that because I will cry because I love every single one of them so much. Shout out to our staff, please.
While has been getting dragged, had to limit replies. Yes, this is the other progressive candidate on the ticket who didn't drop out to consolidate votes around Kat. That being said, keep in mind that if she had dropped out to consolidate votes around Kat, what if Fine had dropped out to consolidate votes around Biss? If Fine had dropped out, Biss would have won by double-digit margins, even if Amiwala had dropped out. So it's just the numbers weren't there. The numbers weren't there, which is unfortunate. Still massive, massive L's around to Bernie and AOC. I have no idea why they didn't speak on this race. I have no idea why. I mean, like, there are obvious answers, potentially, right? You know, cucked out to Israel, whatever you want. But it's very disappointing. I will not resign the cynicism. I will maintain my disappointment. Thank you. Regarding the local electorate, Biss was always likely to win. Yeah, no, Biss was always likely to win. And in addition to that, a lot of people do forget that Kat did have like a long shot campaign to begin with. Kat did not enter this race with, you know, people were not putting this on a coin flip. It was a long shot. That's life. You do what you can. I think genuinely the line was defensive weapons. That's my theory. Yeah. But I want a Democratic Party that scoffs at the idea of providing a genocidal ethno-state defensive weapons so they can protect themselves while waging war with like 8 neighboring countries. In my opinion, that's bad. I don't think we should have given Hitler like AA guns, you know? We're only providing the Reich anti-air cannons, which are exclusively a defensive weapon. She ran a good way. Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. Well, meanwhile, on the other side of things, where's Biss congratulating J Street? Here we go.
Survivor grandparents and their 2-year-old daughter, my mother, in 1948, and at the same time, that the oppression of the Palestinian people is an unacceptable stain on the world and on the Jewish people as well, and has to be ended. There was a lot of pressure to move away from one or the other of those perspectives, and I was not willing to do it because that's not who I am, and that's not what this district is. This district understands nuance and wants someone who accepts the reality of competing, even contradictory sounding priorities and values. And
what a weird thing to say in a victory speech, you know? Like, it's actually a both sides argument. This is what J Street offers you, you know, rather than AIPAC salivating at every Arab death approach. You know, well, I'm proud to acknowledge I have a contradictory position. I say I value Palestinian lives, but then I support the genocidal ethno-state that wants to, you know, eradicate them.
Realities. Now, that point of view is not the point of view of AIPAC. AIPAC that spent an unbelievable amount of money, over $7 million, to try to buy this seat, to support the idea that we can't accept nuance, that we can't accept the reality of competing narratives, that we can't fight for justice for all, that we can't accept the very Jewish value that there is equal sacred dignity in every single life, and that every person has equal rights to self-determination and to justice. My friends, I'm going to go to Congress and fight for that very basic principle of self-determination and justice that every single human being deserves in the world than anywhere else on this planet. And so, let me end this simply by saying, AIPAC found out the hard way.
This guy asked AIPAC for help, right? He went to AIPAC and asked them for support, and AIPAC turned him down and went for Fine instead because she was more of a Zionist.
It's not for sale. So enough about AIPAC. May tonight be the last time I utter their name. This victory belongs to J Street.
That's such a cool thing to say after you win a U.S. House seat. This victory belongs to J Street, the other Israel advocacy organization. Belongs to. Jesus Christ. Why don't you take the knee? Why wasn't this given from Jerusalem, man? Put your head against the wall. Jesus Christ. Belongs to? That's so weird. Why would you ever... It doesn't belong to the voters? Or, like, you're not even going to pretend that this is a democracy? You're just, like, just straightforwardly. What an insane thing to say. And what a, like JQ parentheses positive. This victory, this House representative belongs to the other pro-Israel pack. Ah! Nice. There's no difference between J Street and AIPAC. It's the same thing. Just like how AIPAC has had to fund their candidates through subsidiaries and run ads that have nothing to do with Israel, they run from their reputation. The J Street is just another running from your reputation, you know? We're going to keep running through this. Then J Street's going to be known as like the crazy Zionist, genocidal, fascist org, and then it's going to be another one. They're going to find some new...
Against unspeakable odds for that point of view.
What's J Street? J Street is another. It's like AIPAC. It's another like advocacy group for Zionists and for Israel.
The mainstream in this district and the mainstream.
The only real difference is that AIPAC and its subsidiaries have funded everyone from Democrats to like J6 supporting election denying Republicans, whereas J Street limits their rhetoric and their support to quote unquote liberal Democrats. But the actual aims and objectives of both organizations are pretty much the same.
Of the Jewish community.
Yeah!
I have some really important thank yous to give. First of all, to my family.
Yeah, right. Cat lost against this. Well, this guy's an older man. Also, he was a mayor in the area. Had a lot more legitimacy, name recognition. For sure. The wheels keep on turning. Enton, give me the Dem W. Give me the play-by-play.
The dust settling over big primary elections in Illinois. We're going to talk about not who won, but who voted, because that may have a bigger impact nationally. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry. And so let's talk about what we saw in terms of turnout.
Democratic enthusiasm through the roof. They are so...
I wonder if he knows Israelis would rip him to shreds for not being genocidal enough. Dude, they don't care. Biden got nothing but disrespect from Israel, even as he lied day after day for their war. And then he chose to, like the Dems lost the election rather than disavow Israel in any meaningful capacity. Like, it doesn't matter. Zionists would rather die than go against their masters.
Excited, they just can't hide it. What are we talking about? Share of Illinois midterm Democratic primary ballots. In 2022, Democrats cast 53% of the primary ballots compared to 47% of Republicans. Look at what we have in 2026. Hello.
That is pretty insane.
We're talking about Democrats casting 68% of the primary ballots with an estimated...
Of course, one wonders what difference this makes if the Democratic votes are going towards Zionist House reps, but, whatever.
More than 90% of the voting, outvoting Republicans by a more than 2-to-1 margin. What was a very tight race in 2022 in terms of primary ballots cast in the Illinois primaries became a blowout for Democrats in 2026. As I said, Democrats very enthusiastic in Illinois.
I was just going to say, and that's what's notable here, because it can be indicative of enthusiasm, which can carry on over time. What are we seeing in terms of primary turnout for Democrats compared
it just indicates
to,
general energy and enthusiasm
elections.
to participate.
We're right now talking about Illinois, right? But now we've had 5 primaries this primary season. I decided to tally them all up. What share are Democrats making up of the votes cast so far? We're talking about 55% of the votes cast so far. Arkansas, Illinois, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Texas. Not many blue states on the board right there, a lot of red states, yet Democrats are outvoting Republicans. Very much unlike what we saw in 2024 when Kamala Harris's vote share in those same exact states was 46%. So now Democrats are the majority of...
I'm not going to lie, I feel this enthusiasm will all go to waste if the Dems keep voting in Zionists. Well, that was kind of my argument with Vance and Newsom a little bit. Like, Dems get a massive midterm wave. Oh my God, Dems control the House. Oh my God, Dems control the Senate. And then it's like, more money to Israel, nothing changes. No punishment for the Republicans because punishing the Epstein class ropes Israel in two, for obvious reasons. Like, so it's the concern being, I guess, like you can't really move forward as long as the entire party is beholden to the same set of interests the Republican Party is.
Primary ballots being cast, and Kamala Harris actually lost cumulatively in these states to Donald Trump. So these are red states, and they are turning blue in 2026.
And this is something that I learned I learned only from you, which is that.
And again, just to be clear, because I know I'm often mischaracterized, but the fundamental criticism that I'm levying here is that the Democrats are illiberal, not that they're not socialist. I don't go out here and say, well, the Democrats are too liberal. No, they're not liberal enough. They're failing to be liberal. Like that's I would love it if I lived in a country where the main criticism that I had for the Democrats was that they were too liberal. They weren't socialist enough. They were too deferential to like basic free market, laissez-faire economics and political freedoms, But the founding fathers would not be happy with what's going on right now. Adam Smith would not be happy with where we are. So like we're not even there yet,
When you're talking about turnout in a primary, how predictive is that in terms of which party is turning out more?
Sometimes I'm academic, but I like to be in the real world as well. This is not just an academic discussion. Why is this important that Democrats are turning out in such large numbers? Because take a look here. National primary turnout edge by party, then went on to win the U.S. House of Representatives that fall. In 2006, it was the Democrats. In 2010, the Republicans. In 2014, the Republicans. In 2018, the Democrats. In 2022, the Republicans. When one party outvotes the other one in primaries during midterm primary seasons, they then go on to win the House 5 out of 5 times. The fact that Democrats are so enthusiastic this primary season is very big news come the fall.
The founding fathers would be astounded there are black and brown people and women in government. Can I live out for a second? Can I play like the hidden fourth act of Hamilton for a moment? I actually think the founding fathers would be way more taken by the political corruption than they would the representation in government. The founding fathers basically all, to some extent or another, understood where their ideology was leading. Like if you, not to say they weren't bigoted, they were, but they knew where the line was going, like in the long run. They literally owned slaves? Wow, thank you for that novel information. I didn't know that. I having only watched Hamilton, my only source of info on the founding fathers, I wasn't aware of that, but I appreciate you clearing up that gap in my knowledge. They were Enlightenment era liberals. They kind of understood where the game was going. I think that if somebody told them, hey, in like 250 years, there's going to be like more or less racial equality politically, and gender-wise, gender parity, I think they would get that pretty easily. I think they would lose their minds at how openly corrupt government has gotten. I think that would be by far, like, I think the difference ideologically between where we are now and where we were then in terms of like minority representation is less significant and less obvious than the difference between where we were then and where we are now in terms of like the decay of the institutions. I think that they would understand that a lot of the liberal progress we've made was a consequence of the ideas they had, whereas like Trump and what's happening right now is a representation that their ideas failed. Does that make any sense? Like black and brown people in government, oh, okay, I guess everyone's woke in the future. The state of the current government, oh, I guess our ideas don't work. This whole like big experiment, liberal democracy, post-enlightenment, all that, like I guess, oh, is this where it leads? Like this level of cronyism? I think they would lose their minds. Imagine if Adam Smith saw the state of capitalism today. Oh, he'd have the temperament of John Brown. Mind chat, the main reason the founding fathers created the country. Listen, it's not about living out or anything. I just think a lot of people forget, especially on the left, which is unfortunate. A lot of people forget the founding fathers were, in addition to being 18th century aristocrats, they were also Enlightenment era philosophers, most of them. So like there was something there, there was something there. So you're like, oh, did you know the founding fathers were racist? Yeah, obviously, you idiot, you jackass. Yeah, shit. They were like George Washington was like the fucking wealthiest guy in America. Yeah, he's a plantation owner, okay? That doesn't mean they didn't have any underlying ideas. So this would like challenge them. Doesn't mean they weren't bad or whatever.
Because historically speaking, that means they have a very delicious fall. They go on to win the House of Representatives.
And what are the prediction markets thinking about all this?
Yeah, okay, so you see this, you see the primary votes being cast, right? What about the prediction markets? What about the Cauchy prediction markets? Chance Democrats take the House in 2026. You go back to just before Election Day, 2025, Democrats had just a 58% chance. Hello, we're now talking an 84% chance, near record high for Democrats to take back the House according to the Cauchy prediction market. Very much matching what we're seeing so far this primary season.
For Senate for the Senate race in Illinois. The state's Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton won that primary, beating out 2 veteran members of Congress. The seat favored for Democrats to win, a race that, though, has been closely watched as a test of what direction the Democratic Party is heading into the midterms. But it appears, while we wait for that answer a little bit more, it appears we already know, though, one big winner in this contest, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. He gave millions to boost Stratton's campaign. CNN's Steve Turnout is in Chicago. Was there watching people as they went in to vote yesterday. So what happened? What did we learn?
You know, when you talk to these campaigns just a few months ago, Kate, the overwhelming sense...
Ozempic Pritzker. This governor sash should be bulging out way more around the tummy. That's f***ed up.
Was that U.S. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy was ahead in this race. He had millions of dollars to his advantage. He was virtually the only candidate on the air in all of 2025 through the winter. But Stratton had that key support from J.B. Pritzker, the state's very popular and also very wealthy Democratic governor, who not only campaigned overtime for her in recent weeks, but he also put upwards of $10 million into a pro-Stratton super PAC that helped
What's
her...
stopping future candidates from taking money from the Israel lobby but still running a fake anti-Israel or progressive campaign? You mean like what's stopping politicians from lying? Is what you're asking? Nothing? Do you think I have an answer to that? Nothing. You can't. Look, the main thing that we have going for us on this is that it's not really, when it comes to publicly like public hot topic issues, like stuff that people actually debate and engage with rather than banal technocratic policy, stuff like Israel, you can't really run a super progressive campaign and then be pro-Israel once you're in office without repercussions. You know, like if you keep doing that, eventually everyone in the public is going to catch on to it, and everyone in the public is going to hate Israel, right? Israel doesn't just want pro-Israel politicians; they want pro-Israel Americans. And if you don't have pro-Israel Americans, you're eventually going to run out of pro-Israel politicians. It's not really possible in the long run in a democracy, and we do have a democracy, as flawed as it is, to like have a population that's completely red-pilled in Israel, but every single elected official is like, oops, and they pull the mask off as soon as they get into office, you know? But yeah, it's an issue. I mean, you know, we've whined about AOC for a while.
That message was far more progressive than the other leading contenders in this race. She was the candidate who supported Medicare for all, a $25 minimum wage. She was the only one of the top contenders who said that she would abolish ICE. The other ones wouldn't go that far. She also said that she wouldn't support Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Not every bit of research shows we're an oligarchy that is sometimes democratic on accident 30% of the time. That's not empirically measurable. Oligarchy and democracy aren't actually like separate categories. Politics is more complicated than that. We do have a democracy. Votes are counted. The votes aren't faked, and at least, you know, to our knowledge. Voter fraud's pretty rare, extremely rare. It's just that, you know, the Overton windows, media captured, so on and so forth. But it's like something, a government being an oligarchy and being a democracy. We have a term for that, by the way. We have a term for when a government is oligarchical but still nominally democratic. It's called a bourgeois democracy.
Lead the caucus going forward, and I have to tell you, at one of her events on Saturday, that was one of the biggest applause lines that she received. She also ran a rather notable ad, and it didn't get on TV much, but it generated a ton of buzz, and that was one where it featured
Back it up, he said something important. I was saying something.
Going forward, and I have to tell you, at one of her events on Saturday, that was one of the biggest applause lines. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to lead the caucus going forward, and I have to tell you, wouldn't support Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to lead the caucus going forward, and I have to tell you, at one of her events on Saturday, that was one of the biggest applause lines that she received. She also ran a rather notable ad, and it didn't get on TV much, but it generated a ton of buzz, and that was one where it featured voters saying
bourgeois democracy is not distinguishable, or not distinguished from liberal democracy? Kind of depends a little bit. Definitely like features of both. And don't get caught in political terminology, okay? Political terminology is a Venus flytrap for midwits to stick their dick in. You don't want to get too hung up on that. Now, look, Kat's loss is sad. The Democrats' general overperformance in the midterm so far is glad, even though I'm not really sure what it's going to lead to. I hope Kat runs again. She's nice, you know? Bummed over it? Yeah, me too. If your answer to "we live in an oligarchy" is "I agree, but I use a different word to describe the same thing you described," then cool. I think that sometimes it's a little bit self-defeating when people on the left try to semantically argue that we aren't in a democracy, because definitionally we are. Like, as flawed as it is, the people that get voted for are the ones who then end up in office. That is a democracy, definitionally. And it's important to understand that, because it does limit the, like, you know, it defines the mode of engagement, right? Democracy is so powerful of an idea that even totalitarian dictatorships are democracies in, like, the thinnest sense, right? Like, North Korea holds elections. They don't really change much, but they do, because it affords so much perceived legitimacy. A king would never ask for you know, an election to determine the legitimacy of their rule. Their rule is, you know, ordained by bloodline. But even, you know, Kim Jong-un, right? They insist. Oh yeah, they just had an election there, and our boy Kim just won like 99.97% of the vote. Doesn't democracy entail more values and norms than just elections? Yeah, for sure. But we do have a fairly robust civil society here in America. You know, like, it's just important to understand this. As pointed out, thank you, Wizardry. Yeah, they wouldn't do mass disenfranchisement if the votes didn't matter. It's why there is some level of participation is necessary. Even dictatorships, well, maybe dictatorship's overly strong of a word. You know, authoritarian oligarchies like Russia are still democracies. It's just it goes to show you how weak a democracy can be, I guess, or how little the term really means. Think of a democracy as less a representation of the will of the people and more a legitimizing mechanism for power. Think of it that way. Like, whether or not a country is a democracy has very little to do with how free it is or how represented the people are, whatever else, but everything to do with the way the leadership maintains their perceived authority, you know? That's why SCOTUS is anti-democratic. That's why Nintendo of America is anti-democratic. Bring back Bowser.